Sigh?
Bourbon. Burb.
The burb.
Burb. Yellowstone. This stuff isn't too bad.
I wouldn't know. I'm cleaning out the black velvet.
It's actually a pretty accurate representation of Yellowstone right now because it's liquid.
As opposed to a gas?
Usually it's quite gassy at Yellowstone, actually.
Yeah.
You can, the whole place smells like sulfur. There's lots of sulfur in those geysers.
Sulfur.
Sulfur. Yep. When I was at Yellowstone, this would have been, holy crap, 5 years ago. We were there long enough to watch Old Faithful go off 2 or 3 times.
It's about 3 hours.
Every time it was it's not just pure water coming out of that stuff. It's all kinds of minerals and crap because I was wiping this weird film off of my sunglasses every time the thing went off and some of the mist sprayed on you. It's interesting. But it's interesting having a boardwalk next to something that could boil you alive quite easily. Flash burns these colorful looking pools. But gosh, I wonder what that did with the flooding. Got that stuff everywhere. But yeah. Anyway, drinking our roommate's Yellowstone bourbon that he doesn't like. But I like a good bourbon, so here we are.
Why does he have it if he doesn't like it? Was it a gift, or was it just, I'm going to try it, and then backfired on him?
Probably a little bit of both.
Sure.
If I were to guess. I forget what he told me, but yeah.
It is either a gift or it's not. It can
that's true.
Kind of be a gift. So
he must have bought it.
Certainly.
He must have bought it because somebody suggested it to him, and then he's not really an alcohol drinker to begin with. And yeah, either way, he wants it consumed. So
we're not complaining about that.
We finally finished off the black velvet.
Yep, I've got the last of that. A little tall for what I usually pour, but it was better than leaving a dribble in there.
Yep. What else is going on these days?
I mean, we're
not a ton.
Yeah, even though it's right before the 4th of July weekend, we don't have a lot going on.
Oh, yeah. Happy 4th of July. We'll see. This will probably come out after. Oh, I might get to it on Monday. We'll see.
This will be my last podcast as a 24-year-old, so that's a thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
The birthday epoch continues apace.
Indeed.
With Nathan reaching his jubilee year as a human being.
Is there an element associated with that number?
25?
Yeah.
I suppose
it's silver's 50, or is silver 25 and gold's 50, or is gold 75? What's platinum?
I think platinum is your 75th anniversary.
And then diamond would be 100, or
something
is diamond
that.
50?
I don't know.
I don't know the numbers.
Let's see.
Audibly Google's anniversary
Element
substance correlations.
Okay. I forgot that I had YouTube open, but there's just this weird looking thumbnail where it's just this guy holding a gun. It's don't answer the door at 3 a.m. It's okay. Jubilees.
Thumbnails are a thing, man.
Numerous unidentified beings of Serbian origin.
Sweet baby rays to
Sweet
protect
baby
against
rays, barbecue sauce, and a solid 25,000 kilogram block of uranium-235.
When's your uranium jubilee?
Do they go that far down the
It's
periodic table?
215 point something years.
Okay, so your silver jubilee is 25th anniversary, golden jubilee is 50th, and diamond is 60th. Or 75th, depending.
Okay, so I'm
Depending
at silver.
on what?
We're at silver. Well, I will be at silver by
The
the time
silver anniversary of our livings.
Yes. So should we go like the full Levitical Jubilee year and like let our crops go fallow for an entire year and release all the... Wait, hold on. Actually, that sounded kind of cool, though. That had to be a fun practice. Like, or kind of a cool like way to live out. Like as every 7 years, like the Hebrews had to like, give everybody a rest essentially, and party. Plenty of symbolic meaning there. Anyway, let's see. What have you been up to these days, Riley? How goes
it's
IPF?
IPF.
Yeah.
IPF is the IPFing.
Mm-hmm.
And things are very kind of timeless around here. So
I had
yeah.
the weekend was nice in that I didn't have to do much for the first weekend in a while, even though like I had to do a little bit of work stuff related to the high school reunions. It wasn't really anything too crazy.
I mean, we had a whole day of playing 50-turn Mario Party.
That's what happened. Yes. One of the two listeners decided it was time to play 50-turn Mario Party. So that's what we did like all Saturday afternoon.
It was certainly a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you what.
Jonah/Bryant won because Jonah played the first half and then left.
Had us in the first half, not going to lie.
Yep.
But then Bryant took over because Jonah had to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
I lost.
Yes.
And this time it was by choice.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest. Nihilism is the only way to enjoy Mario Party.
Rather
The
destructive nihilism, I will add.
Yes. Honestly, that is... I know you're listening. That was the only time I've ever had fun playing Mario Party, John.
Was like being on a team mini game with John and just completely screwing it up on purpose.
I was playing Kingmaker. I knew I wasn't going to win. Didn't matter what happened, how hard I tried. So I just decided to make the hybrid player...
If you can't pick it up, Nathan is not a fan of Mario Party by any stretch whatsoever.
Here's the thing. When we did the minigame thing afterwards... That was fun.
Just the mini games by themselves.
The mini games themselves are fun. The board game sucks. I do not like that half.
It's interesting because it like graphs your like trends like throughout the game, like when you get stars and everything like that. I didn't get anything until like the last quarter of the game, and then I started racking up stars like crazy, but not enough in time to win.
Also, that's why I never specifically went against you, because it's like, the game already has me covered on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just every time I got close, like something would happen, and it would just like not like come to fruition, or I would go across the star, but I didn't have the coins or whatever. But it was just cruel, the cruel hands of fate. Which was
Is
that?
it Ian so?
Which
Then I
which Mario
defy
Party
you,
was it?
stars.
I reject nature. What?
It was a Romeo and Juliet quote.
Oh, okay.
But also, it's Mario Party, so rejecting the stars.
Who is calling me in the middle of a podcast? Okay, potential spam. Go away.
Man,
How
that
do you
could
know
have
it's
been
not
some
spam
content.
if you don't pick it up?
What's that?
Yeah,
That
call
could have
the
been
guy.
some content.
Oh gosh, it's always a robot voice asking me about my warranty. What's weird is I'm getting those calls at my work phone. Like those are almost entirely the only calls I ever receive. Is like your car has an extended or has an expired warranty. It's like
We've been trying to reach you about your car's extended
why
warranty.
are you calling me on my work phone?
They don't know it's your work
They
phone.
have a list, and it's a robot.
Yep. A robot with an Indian accent. So, like Bender and Apu combined. Yeah, I don't know.
Have you been watching Futurama?
No, just clips. I need
Uh-huh.
to find where the show is actually like available.
Yeah, I don't know anymore.
Because
Disney, Fox used to have the rights to it, which
I'm-
would mean that it would be on Disney Plus, but I don't.
it's
think
not
it
on
is.
Disney Plus. Yeah, I checked.
Sure.
The Simps are on Disney Plus, but no Futurama, so I'm not sure.
Maybe Hulu then?
It might be.
Surely,
Hulu's
it's
more
probably-
expensive than
yeah.
it's worth, in my
And
opinion.
Hulu is like just at this point a puppet for Disney to throw its R-rated content onto.
Yeah, for now. We'll see how that
For now.
shakes out.
I mean, they put Punisher and Daredevil on Disney Plus, so
yeah, so
they're slowly opening up the mature content.
mm-hmm. Are they just going to go the YouTube route? It's like, where it's like, all right, was this made for kids? Yes, no.
Maybe that's like, hey, parents, we know it's called Disney, but if you want to turn on the R-rated stuff, that's a specific option. You can go into the options and apply for specific users, right?
Yeah.
I think it would default to being kid-friendly, and then you could age it up if you want.
Yep, that is what it's doing.
Currently, yes.
Yes.
Part of me thinks it would be very funny to one day just sit down, open Disney Plus, and then watch Alien.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's 20th Century Fox, all right.
That is. I bet it's probably coming at some point.
I mean, there's a lot of those. I mean, they would be dumb to not put Daredevil on, or not Daredevil, Deadpool, the other guy who dresses in red,
Yeah.
because that would be just the smash.
Well, because they
hit to get
made
all
the PG
viewers.
version of Deadpool 2 where it's like the kid from,
And I'd watch that.
Princess
I'd watch
Bride.
the PG edit of it
like they do the little storybook thing like they do in Princess Bride.
because they wanted to air it on TV over Christmas.
Mm-hmm. For some reason.
Because
Like, yeah, you know what I'm thinking around Christmas time? Let's watch Deadpool 2 on
No, it was-
television.
I think it was Deadpool 1.
Which one was it? Could have sworn it was
I don't know.
one of
I
them.
didn't watch it.
One of them. I haven't seen either of them.
Neither have
You're
I.
really not missing much.
Yeah. I mean, because I don't think Ryan
Like
Reynolds
I can
is, like,
handle a
that
little
funny.
bit of crassness here and there, but
yeah,
like
but where it's just
the
like
entire
nonstop.
movie is just bad. It's
Yeah.
it's just crass.
Just
after
baldy
crass.
humor. Baldy. Just on and on and on. That's all they
Honestly,
know how to do.
I kind of prefer PG-13 PG Deadpool. You watch him in a couple of like the Avengers or X-Men or Spider-Man shows that they made, and he's actually a riot. And so it's like when he doesn't just revert to the lowest common denominator of bro humor, he can actually be a fun time.
Mm-hmm.
But the movie was made for the lowest common denominator of bro humor.
Yep. Yeah, just generally not a fan of that. Neither that demographic nor the movies that pander to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of born of a similar thing where like now everything fantasy has to be Game of Thrones. It's like it's a
We
demographic.
have to put boobies in it because it is like Game of Thrones, and that was successful.
Yes. Yeah.
Pray they don't do it to Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, but honestly, I wouldn't put it past them. Because gone are the days of Game of Thrones trying to be Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings is going to try to be Game of Thrones, darn it.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping that somebody produces some Brandon Sanderson stuff someday. Like, in some kind of visual adaptation to it, because that's just quality fantasy. And it doesn't try to be Game of Thrones whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had a chance to look at the Wheel of Time series at all? We feel like we may have discussed
the show?
this. Yeah.
I watched like 20 minutes of the first episode and
Oh,
had
that's
to be
right.
done.
Yep. So probably not
'Cause-
a lot going on there worth
No,
looking into.
they're obligatory, like, these hey, you know those like social norms that existed in this town, like in this farming village in the middle of nowhere? Yeah, nobody follows those in the Wheel of Time show because we have to not do that.
We had to make it relatable to a modern audience, even though this is like a
A
mythical.
period
That was
piece.
written in like 1980,
Yeah.
and also
Anachronism
the fact
is fine if it's the morals of current year.
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that there are actual story beats that revolve around those social norms, and Rand, as he sort of has to grapple with the fact that the rest of the world isn't like that. But of course we didn't read that far ahead,
Nope.
because why would we bother?
Yep.
We licensed a moderately popular book so we didn't have to write something ourselves.
Yep.
And then we wrote something ourselves.
Yep.
Yeah, like a good 50% of what showed up in that season was original content.
Because
Like,
that's adaptation.
it appeared in no way, shape, or form in the book.
Yeah. Maybe we
So
should
it's
just
like-
do a salt cast on like poorly done adaptations.
That
if
would
we do a first
maybe.
a salt cast episode.
I kind of don't want to give Artemis Fowl more watch numbers on Disney Plus though,
Fair. That is fair.
and that's the only place you can watch it because Lord knows they're not doing a DVD release because nobody liked it.
Mm-hmm.
Or that old Lightning Thief movie.
Or the Halo show.
Or the old, Series of Unfortunate Events movie.
Yeah, that one just sucked all around as a movie.
They tried to cram 3 books into a movie.
Wow, imagine that working.
Yep.
Now there are some like awful adaptations that are just fun because they're so bad.
The
like-
BBC Narnia.
The
from
BBC Narnia.
1950s.
I mean, I showed you the Mario movie, James.
Yep, we did watch the Mario movie.
And in similar fashion, the Street Fighter movie is a hot mess of just
I believe it.
delightful dumpster fire.
Well, speaking of delightful dumpster
I was
fire,
about to say that. We're the Palladium Papists. I'm James.
I'm Nathan.
and I'm Riley.
We're doing the gregarious games this week.
On something that I don't consider to be a dumpster fire. I could do a dumpster fire on a game, but we're not doing that. That would be a salt cast. No, we're talking about Thomas Happ's Axiom Verge duology. So yes, gregarious games. We talk about video games on the show sometimes. It's been a while.
It has, actually.
And I figured might as well get back into it. And it's my birthday coming up, so I'm going to talk about a Metroidvania by one guy. So why? Here we go. It's been long enough. There's no like official hold on it like there is with the Baname, but
Yeah, that's true.
it's just personally, it's like I don't want to like hold the whole episode while these guys don't know what to say because they haven't played it.
Yeah,
At least you've been in the room when I played through them.
that's
so.
true. I have observed some of it.
I have 2.
More so two than one.
A little bit.
A little bit. So yeah, the first game, both are like primarily developed by one guy, one Thomas Happ. He is the first Axiom Verge game released in 2015, and the second one released as recently as 2021. So the first Axiom Verge opens up with a little cutscene. It's an NES-styled pixel art game, so the cutscenes are very Ninja Gaiden, and there's still frames in their bottom text. But we open up on a scientist in 2005 named Trace doing some vaguely sciencey experiment with his partner, Dr. Elizabeth Hammond. She doesn't play much of a part in this game. She's just there. When the entire experiment blows up in his face, very literally, and destroys his whole laboratory and all of the work. Then we jump cut to gameplay. Events happen in between those 2 points, but we don't know that yet, so bear with it. You wake up in an egg pod in like this kind of gross red pulsating world, and it's like, and Trace is like, where am I and why? And then he starts being spoken to telepathically by a being that is called a Rusalki. It's like a robot thing. He gets spoken to by this being called Elsa Nova, and she's like, hey, pick up the gun in the other room and come shoot some things. And he's like, I mean, okay, I need to use the gun to break through the stuff blocking the path, but I don't like killing things, but I'll do it anyway.
I'll do what I must.
So you do some exploring in the thing. You pick up a couple more upgrades for your gun to hit the buttons and stuff. You come across some... Yeah, you eventually come across Elsa Nova, who is this robot head that's like giant and suspended in a tangle of wires. She's like, "Hi, I'm a robot weapon thing that is protector of this world called, where are you? I wrote it down because I forgot.
That's a cool name.
Oh, did I?
It's kind of a rather long and tedious name, though.
Anyway,
This world that I kind of sort of forgot. I wrote it down anyway.
I guess I
That-
didn't
that-
write it
Right,
down.
so back on this world that I know of.
Anyway,
I wrote
back
it
on the
down
world that
anyway.
definitely has a name. I'll
See, that'd be me. Like, if anybody's paid attention to the descriptions of these episodes, like if I created a robot apocalypse world,
Sudra.
it would just be a bunch of random like, like crap. I don't know, just like or crap IDK titles for things.
Anyway, he's not on Earth. He's on this other world, Sudra, and she's like, yeah, there's a bad guy who has released a pathogen on the people of Sudra and is trying to keep us trapped in here by keeping the dimensional gateway closed. So I want you to go kill that guy. And Trace is like, I'm not a fan of killing people. So maybe we don't? She's like, okay, but until then, can you go...
But would you kindly?
But would you kindly? It's not quite that. A little different. She's like, okay, well, at the very least, can you go reactivate the repair drones so my fellow robot people can get up and running? In particular, there's Ophelia, who is very helpful and powerful.
It is I,
The fair Ophelia.
I think we're going to get letters about this. Anyway, I just had to get that out of the way.
So anyway, Trace does some exploring. He fights some very gross, overgrown blob flesh monsters with prosthetics on them that all target him because they think he's some kind of demon. And Trace is like, I am the least demonic thing here. What are you talking about?
From my point of view, you all are demons.
So anyway,
You are lost.
actually not too far gone. Anyway, so he explores the world and it's all dead with a lot of there's some rooms that are just piled with corpses of the people that were killed by the pathogen.
Goodness.
Very aesthetic.
Bring out your dad.
So anyway, it's like this massacre didn't happen all that long ago. And so he eventually gets the drones online and he talks to Ophelia and she's like, yeah, Athetos came to our world and tried to steal our technology and stuff, and we don't want him to keep us here because if he's tried to kill us, so we want to kill him. And Trace is like, no. Over the course of the game, you realize that this is one of those games that has worked the death and respawn mechanic into the lore, where whenever Trace dies, he gets respawned at one of these egg chambers. And it's like, that's what I woke up in. Interesting.
Huh.
So he goes further into closer toward where Athetos is, sees some giant robot bodies. He's like, oh yeah, those are the bodies the head goes on. They're real powerful war machines. So Elsinova's like, yeah, that's mine. I'm a giant snake, really.
Ooh.
So you get further in, and you start, and he starts getting affected by the pathogen and starts getting feverish and hallucinates another him running away from him. And so he follows the other him, then he walks into a room and hallucinates that he is a giant grotesque monster boss, like the ones that we've been fighting this whole time. And he gets killed by the guy he's hallucinating, and then goes into a bit of a blackout and starts remembering what happened between the explosion and waking up in Sudra. Because the explosion at his lab left him hospitalized for a long time, and he had a long time to just think. He had bandages over his eyes. He was sensorily deprived, so he was just thinking. Being the scientist that he is, the pattern mind that he is, that's a thing that I'm not sure what it means, but they call him that in Sudra. He comes up with a theory of existence in the universe, where there's multiple dimensions and multiple...
Original today, aren't we, sir?
It was 2005 when he came up with this, so...
Daring today, aren't we?
But also, what worlds could exist within a simulation, and would something within a simulation perceive its simulation as reality? Kind of just weird stuff, like you do when you're on drugs and are recovering from a hospital.
Yeah, I mean, what else is there to do?
Anyway, the scientific community at large gave him a nickname, Athetos, which means being without having like without place, I believe is
The
what it
scientific
means.
community sucks at nicknames.
I know, right? Anyway, he remembers that actually he is Athetos.
Ah,
It's like, oh wait, if that's me, then who am I? And he's like, oh well, when Athetos was waging his war on Sudra, he may have cloned himself a bunch of times, and those clones may have mutated and become giant horrid monsters like the ones you've been fighting this whole time. And you may have been one that we deprogrammed and tried to use to turn against Athetos and kill him. And Trace is like, well, that's not cool by any of you.
kind of wild.
I'm
Not
gonna
gonna
go
lie.
because he's me. I'm gonna go up and talk to Athetos and see.
From my
what he
point of
has
view,
to
I'm
say.
evil.
Then you are lost because it's a Metroidvania and they don't have hints. Anyway, so over the course of the game, he continues to fight things and discover things and goes to the top of the tower where Athetos is at after meeting with Elsa Nova, who has her head plugged into her body. And he's like, hey, could you not kill him? I kind of don't like killing people, and I want to figure out what's going on. And she's like, yeah, sure, I don't have fingers to cross, so I'm totally not crossing anything behind my back.
Why would you ask?
Why would you ask? Why would you even look?
Shut up.
Shut up. So no, you go up and you meet Athetos, and he's like, hi, I'm you from 100 years ago. That was 2005. And I came here because after my explosion in my theory of reality and everything, I'm like, well, now I've got to prove it. And so he discovers the breach. The breach is this dimensional gateway that,
Looks like pants.
no, it looks like pixels.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And he's like, anyway, I came here and I found all this technology that wasn't being used because the native people were treating it superstitiously because apparently they created it 100 years ago and now it's more of religious artifacts. And I'm like, well, that's not useful. We could use these things to stop world wars and hunger and stuff. I got to get this back to Earth. So I'll just commit genocide and wait for all the robot people to die so they don't go back to their home world when I unlock the breach. And then
What could go wrong?
what could possibly go wrong? And Trace is like, well, everything? Too bad, boss fight time. So you do the boss fight, and Elsa Nova shows up in her big snake form and laser blasts the crap out of Athetos, and Trace is like, that wasn't cool. She's like, I know that wasn't cool, but you can go home now.
Bye-bye.
So he wakes up back in his lab, like, what the heck just happened? Well, now that I've seen that, I've got to try and go back. And so he starts researching how to go back. And if you get the 100% ending, Athetos' old man Trace shows up at his house and shoots himself. By himself, I mean his younger self. And he's like, yeah, Trace, it's time to wake up. And I don't even know what that means. It's all vague and confusing.
What?
So that's the first game. The second game, fortunately, is a little more straightforward while also being just as perplexing and also having even more characters with ridiculous names. So, remember that lab assistant Elizabeth Hammond I mentioned at the beginning? In 2007, after the explosion and stuff happened,
Modern day 2007.
modern day 2007, she creates a computer company that creates the Ansible computer, which is like the most powerful, like zero latency computer. It's like it's almost so powerful that it's as if it's tapping into
almost
another
like
dimension or something.
They got the technology from the buggers.
Right, something like that. Anyway, so she's like dominating the computing industry for lots and lots of years until the modern day 2053, when she disappears mysteriously in Antarctica.
Like you do.
Yes, and so here we meet Indra, the player character, who's this wealthy CEO girl boss who's like, hey, my competitor company lost their CEO, I'll just buy it. And so she buys
Well, guess I'll buy.
Guess I'll buy. So she buys the company and looks at the first ever like Ansible model that Hammond ever made, and she gets a mysterious message. It's like, hey, come to Antarctica if you ever want to see your daughter again. And she's
Dun,
like,
dun, dun.
my estranged daughter who I haven't talked to in years? Okay, I'll go see what's up in Antarctica, I guess. So anyway, she goes to Antarctica goes down an elevator and winds up in another world that also totally has a name.
Perplexed at the sheer lack of ants anywhere.
I have it written down too. Where is it? Nope, that's something else. Oh, Kiengir. 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 She winds up in another dimension. It's like, this isn't Antarctica. There's grass.
That's not supposed to happen. It must be in Greenland.
But that's the opposite of the world. That's still more logical, I suppose. Anyway, so she goes exploring and tries to find what even is going on here. She grabs a nice pick to do some climbing around. She eventually drowns.
What?
She's approaching an ancient urn when she drowns, but then the being inside the urn breaks out and uses nanomachines, son, to bring her back to life.
Okay.
She's like, "Hi, Indrid. I am Amashilama. I am what is known as an arm, which is basically a nanomachine's weapon being. I'm your AI companion for this game." And she's like, "That's weird, but I'll allow it because everything is weird right now."
Yep.
So what's going on? She keeps running into these old...
what have those penguins been up to anyway? I want answers.
So in her exploring, she discovers more Ansible computers that give her vague directions, like, go to this other coordinate, which has another computer that'll give you the next message. And she's like, no, shut up. Tell me where my daughter is. Oh, no, I'm fading fast. Bye-bye.
You hear that? That's the static.
That's mouth noises. Oh, no.
No.
Anyway.
Sorry, we're breaking up. I can't understand.
Anyway. So, Indra and Amashilama... that's how it's... Amy. I'm going to call her Amy, okay?
All right, sounds good.
Anyway, so Indra and Amy, she's like, Amy tells her, like, hey, I'm going to help you get the upgrades. When you break that jar, you're going to get a new power, the power to climb. Or you open this one, you're going to talk to a small child, and he's going to turn you into a drone.
There is no spoon, drone boy.
And she's like, why is this a small child when the other people who have been these genie bottle things were adults? And she's like, don't worry about it. It's not messed up in the least. So anyway, she uses her drone powers to explore, and she eventually also meets a giant statue boy, kind of a griffin thing, but with like a Mesopotamian type.
He was a statue boy.
Head.
He looked at you, boy.
Anyway, this is the Lamasu, and he's like, hi, I'm kind of worshipped as a deity by the people that died 100 years ago in a great war against other dimensional beings. And because everybody died due to other dimensional beings, and I'm the guy who's running all the drones running around, trying to kill people who are from other dimensions, because extra dimensional invaders is not a thing I like. And Indra's like, that's fine and all, I guess. You killed a bunch of researchers who are in Antarctica doing nothing else. But how about you just let us leave? And he's like, nope, that's not a thing I can do. You can't leave. You can't contaminate other dimensions. I got to kill you here. And she's like, you're not cool, but you're also an immobile statue, so I can't do anything about it.
Bet.
And Amy's tells her something. Is like, well, we can. You know, it'd be really handy for exploring the world and trying to get back to your Earth, air quotes. If you could move your drone and your body independently, because when you use the drone, you just kind of throw the drone and it goes while Andrew just stands there limply. What if you could move them both at the same time? Wouldn't that be a cool upgrade to get?
What?
And it's like, oh, of course that's a cool upgrade. Let's do that. She's like, great. Now step in this machine, put your actual human body over there, and then go push the button as the drone, and we'll split you.
And I'm doing this completely for your benefit. There's nothing I want out of it whatsoever.
I am not going to hijack your body and try and kill the entire all of existence. Actually, no, that's exactly what's going to happen. Lol, bye.
Sorry I lied.
It's like, what the flip? I'm stuck here as a drone with little Damu, the child baby, who, by the way, these arms, these nanomachine people, used to be human beings, including the child. And reading some of the lore things, it's like, oh yes, children are a lot more malleable with this sort of thing. They adapt a lot better and become more powerful arms to equip wielders with. And so that's a cool thing people resorted to in the war 100 years ago.
Blimey.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's you and Drone Boy trying to be like, okay, I'm a spider thing now. Let's explore and find a way to either get my body back, like it's some Full Metal Alchemist stuff, or stop her from destroying all of reality. Because it turns out the ancient war was was against invaders from another dimension, right? But it was a dimension that was like, apparently, like, worlds are linked in kind of a hierarchy. And so it was one above them. So if you took out the connection to that dimension, you would wipe out everything after it. And so it's not a good idea to let Amy blow up all of reality because... And she's like, no, that's just hearsay. That's what they keep you to keep us in check.
That's just what
It's like,
they
no,
want you to think.
it's how it's stacked up. Stop. So you find another world breach and talk to people in the Emergence, which is this other world that looks oddly similar to Sudra. And they're like, oh yeah, we don't have anything here. We're just hanging out, but I heard you guys have some funky technology in the other side of the thing that was stolen from a higher dimension. So why don't you go check that out? And she does go check that out. And so you get to this sealed off wing of the land, and there's a bunch of little drone things that remind me of a previous game. You start coming across these giant egg capsules that Indra's like, hey, what are these? And the child's like, oh yeah, they use those to clone people and make entire armies so that we could fight the other dimension. And she's like, well, that's messed up. And it's like, yeah, it is. It's also a callback to the first game, but I'm not saying that out loud. So anyway, you walk into one of the egg pods and get slurped into another in-between dimensions area with a supercomputer in it that's like, hey, this is where Hammond is, and also this is where your daughter is. They're not physically there. They're in the computer talking to you from another dimension, which is like, okay, this is just a lot of realities colliding. What's actually what? But they're like, yeah, if you don't stop Amy from getting to this ancient war machine they used exactly once and realized, oh crap, that's ridiculously powerful. If you don't stop it from like inhabiting that as her body and destroying dimensions, everything's gonna fall apart. So why don't you go stop her? And she's like, yeah, but my daughter's in there. She's like, I'm fine. I think, Mom, dimensions are weird, but I love you. Okay, bye. And so Indra goes back out to the previous world, the Kiengir, Canada. She goes back to Canada, and she runs into the Lamasu again, and he's like, yeah, I don't like other dimensional people intruding, but I also don't like not existing, so I'm going to help you out a little bit and point you in directions and stuff. She's
might be a dimensional racist, but I'm not that dimensional of a racist. I'm not that racist of a dimensional.
Something like that. So yeah, you go and chase after Amy, trying to get one of these Sinua, the robot war machines. There's a lot of weird words, probably all drawn from scientific terms. I don't know what they're referring to yet.
Maybe.
Anyway, so there's like one boss fight you have with her after you get the ability to turn into a robot human instead of so that you can do the human things while you don't have a human body.
Gameplay.
Because gameplay reasons. So you have a boss fight with your old body that respawns because it has nanomachines, and then she kills you and you respawn right next to it. It's like, well, we're at an impasse. I gotta run. You eventually make it to the chamber where you are going to try and hijack the Sinua yourself, but then Amy gets there first, and she's like, well, I don't need this old human body. I can just get into the giant war machine. Bye-bye.
Laters.
And Indra's like, well, my body's probably dead. That's not cool. I'm stuck with robot drone form, but I guess this is how it is. She goes to the big portal that goes to the mother world that's on a sewer. On sewer. The domino world that'll make everything chain react and blow
Is that
up.
because of the pizza and the turtles are eating?
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Anyway, so there's a sort of boss fight, and you blow up a bunch of the things, and you blow up the breach thing. Amy has you on the ropes. She's like, "I'm gonna kill you before you destroy the thing." But then your old body shows up. It's like, "Hi, I'm Indra. I'm gonna stab this thing in the back and hold it while you run away, Robot Indra, and blow up the breach bomb that'll destroy the portal thing, so she can't go back to the other world and blow it up." So you do that, and it's like, well, that's weird. This is the second game in a row that has had another form of my body doing a thing in the final boss, but it's the opposite thing. So yeah, that blows up, and now Indra can't go home at all because she's stuck. And she's like, well, little child who is my weapon arm thing who turns me into a drone, it's you and me now, and I'm gonna see if there's some way to give you a physical form again, because you were robbed of a childhood
I'm a real
and
boy.
personhood. Make you a real boy. Let's make you a real boy.
Well, I'm not a puppet.
And so that's where she ends, and if you get the 100% ending, you get this vague cutscene of another world where Indra's old body reunites with her daughter.
Huh.
Because once again, there's a lot of just confusing, like, is that the way it is going on? Like, if you read some of the...
What is reality? Where's Murph?
Exactly. There's also, like, in reading some of the optional text logs and stuff, Dr. Hammond proposes the idea that what if an afterlife is just another dimension? And so it could be presumed that both her daughter and Dr. Hammond are dead, and that's why Indra went there. And it's like, well, if that's Indra, who are we playing as for the second half of the game? So a lot of, like, similar with Trace and Athos. It's like, if you're the original and I'm the copy, who's the original? What's the copy?
I'm questioning everything right now.
It is very much a question everything kind of a thing. But that's the basic plot summary. The cool stuff is how it's presented. Like, the coolest bit is just figuring stuff out. The first game is very much an homage to Metroid 1 on the NES and other NES games of its ilk. You get a bunch of guns that are, like, straight out of Contra, right? All the cutscenes and storytelling, like I had previously said, are very reminiscent of, like, Ninja Gaiden and stuff. It wears its NES inspiration on its sleeve, right down to making glitching through faulty collision is a gameplay feature.
Huh.
And you get a cheat code device that allows you to put in cheat codes to alter reality because you're a pattern mind who can manipulate the breach. And it also has references to specific codes from, like, old games. If you put in the Suitless Samus Justin Bailey code from Metroid 1, he wears a Speedo.
Wow.
Because it's a reference to the swimsuit thing.
And this is the first game?
This is the first game, yes. And there are also, like, little dimensional pockets you can go into that are, like, randomly generated breach areas. And these lay on the broken NES aesthetic thick, right down to, like, the glitching, the way the tiles glitch and the way the panels loop to the other side of the screen before drawing new assets, sort of a thing. So it's, like, very intentional with how it goes into the... It basically took manipulating old games for speedrun purposes and made a story about it. It's like, What if What if reality had cheat codes?
That would screw everything up. Let's explore that.
Exactly. And the second one took that idea and kind of refined it in a little bit of a different direction, I feel like. Because where the first one had a very distinctly NES emulated aesthetic, the second one not so much. It kind of went its own direction more with the pixel art. Although I will say there were more choices in the way things were animated and the colors they used that reminded me more of old PC games. Right down to the fact that you're made of nanomachines, so you can hack things. And when you use your hacker ability, the options for hacking are presented in like a text prompt form.
A grid of pipes appears on the screen and James begins cursing.
Yep.
While we immediately do golf commentary.
Yep.
But also like in subtle things like how the second one uses the floppy disk save icon when you're saving. It's like, oh, that's kind of a PC thing.
That's an old PC
That's
thing.
an old PC thing. And also the game revolves around old PCs. By old PCs, I mean higher than high-tech 2007 PCs from the perspective of 2053.
So like Windows XP.
So yeah, those are some of the cool stuff. I mean, it's a solid Metroidvania.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them are. Although what interests me most is how distinctly different they are. How like they're the same in what matters, but like there's also differences that feel very intentional. Because the first one has a bunch of weapons, it's very run and gunny, and the second one, combat is entirely optional most of the time. Even the final boss is more of a obstacle to blowing up a different thing. So it's very interesting, like, but also what they choose to do and how they choose to do it similarly.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting study in sequelizing.
Is that like that thing from the ending scene from the first game ever really addressed? Like where like like one version of the guy kills the other version of the guy?
No, that was more of a
Here's some food for thought and speculation to keep you interested.
Yeah. There's also a thing which I failed to mention because it wasn't really important, but one of the other robot head people was known to be able to make dream worlds that were very vivid and felt real. And so it's like, the entire structure of the map is vaguely brain-shaped if you flip it upside down.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, could all of this been inside of a dream or someone's head?
It just brains
what
being
about that last
stimulated
bit?
in a jar.
Or at the end of the game was him going back to Earth, created Vision, and Athetos was another part of himself trying to kick him out of the Vision, right? So it's like it's very vague in the way it's trying to, like,
ambiguous.
it's intentionally ambiguous, and it's like it's food for thought. It invites discussion. There's actually, because of the whole timey-wimey shenanigans of being in Sudra, like, this is 100 years or something after Trace first shows up in Sudra. So the events of the second game probably happened before the events of the first game.
Huh.
I mean, even though it's 2053, it's like 100 years after 2005.
Well, because
the
weird
second one.
dimensions stuff, you know.
And there's like a point where it's like, oh yeah, this part of our dimension time runs different, and I just kind of hang out here to wait.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, that's weird. But there's some speculation. Like, I was just doing some research before the thing, like literally on my phone, looking at a Reddit article right before we did this. I'm like, wait, there's theories that Indra becomes Ophelia or Elsa Nova or one of those the robots from the first game. Huh. I mean, they did say they came from another dimension, from like a higher plane, and they have all this technology that is present in the second game.
We
right?
have technology.
Right. But yeah, overall, they're like, Axiom Verge in 2015 was one of like the big Metroidvanias. It was like the one, yeah, pretty much. Until like, you know, your Hollow Knight or your Ori's happened a little bit later. Axiom Verge was like the big one. So it was it was,
It made a splash on the scene.
and also it's one guy.
Yeah.
One guy came up with all this. He wrote the music, and the music's something I have things to say about in the beauty section.
We like our one man band artists on this.
Now, on the one hand, like sometimes one man band artist things can get very pretentious,
Yeah, they certainly can.
but on the other hand, they can be just one guy has a neat idea and has no oversight,
singular
telling him not to
focus
pursue it.
in
More
being
focus.
able to achieve it.
Right. Now, sometimes the lack of oversight from other parties leads to pretentious BS, but other times it's just like genuinely interesting creative stuff.
Or like at work, or like, lack of focus, but that can happen too.
That can, yeah. I mean, he did get help with some of the later stages, the testing, the porting it to other consoles and stuff, but hats off to Thomas Hatt, man. He did a good job, and he doesn't sound like he's stopping. There may be an Axiom Verge 3 6 years from now,
Yeah, there may be.
given how there were 6 years between the first two, and the first one took like maybe 10 years to do in his spare time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just that's generally the cool stuff. I mean, I could go more in depth, but I've been the only one talking for a while. Like, anything, is there anything you guys noticed from my description or watching me play, aside from the fact that I enjoyed myself?
Mm-hmm.
I'm still trying to like puzzle through like the philosophical positions that are being put forward in this.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of this transient. I think it doesn't really want to offer a conclusive determination of what constitutes a self.
It's more asking
it's-
questions rather than offering a solution
Yeah,
or an answer.
'Cause it
a little
doesn't
bit
really-
of ship of Theseus question going on here. A little
Yeah.
bit of
is
Like-
consciousness transferable? Even like,
anthropology right
yep.
down to it. What makes a person a person? What makes a human a human?
Mm-hmm.
Can
And then
that-
also-
Going to address those by contrast to robots.
Yep.
And also, what makes our is reality real, or is it our perception of reality that makes it real?
Is reality a simulation?
Exactly. So it's kind of those more sci-fi philosophical, just like questions more than it answers anything. But they're interesting to think about, and they're presented in a way that's kind of unique and lets you discover the question and then ask yourself what's going on. And I like
And I said,
media
hey.
that invites you to participate in the thought and the discussion. Now, maybe not to the point where it's like, I'm not going to tell you anything and you're going to like it.
Yep.
There's an extreme on that end
That
too.
can get rather frustrating.
But in general, show don't tell is something I like a lot, and something that games that are built around exploration do quite well. And there's just a bunch of also like world building stuff I didn't need to go into, but I could have gone into because I didn't need to because it's not core to the story. But it's like, oh yeah, these people exist. These people might have killed themselves. These people had this relationship that parallels this other couple of people from the other game and stuff. So it's very well put together, and we're very well thought out.
Now it sounds like the connection between the two games is more of a subtle reference and hint
It is.
than like explicit, like these are connected.
Yeah, you could play the second one without knowing anything about the first one, and it would make just as much sense. But there's just like, oh, I recognize that drone sprite, or oh, I recognize this enemy with the annoying attack from the other game.
Mm-hmm.
Or in particular, though, the egg pods and the breach itself. It actually plays a bigger role in the second one. Because in the first game, it's just this intrusive dimensional thing that's keeping people locked in Sudra.
Yep.
In Axiom Verge 2, it's basically like the Link to the Past Dark World. It's like you use it.
Yeah, that's kind of what was popping into my head. Was like the conversion of the spheres. Wait, no. That's The Witcher. But yeah, same concept.
But it's like, yeah, you'll go into the other dimension, explore a bit, find a portal, a one-way portal out, and you'll be on a spot that was behind a wall or something. It's like, oh, I can explore this other area. They're connected like that. That's neat. And then later there's like, oh, you get the magic mirror that lets you dive out of the dark world at any time, or you get the thing that'll draw the portals to you, kind of a thing. So there's a lot of just neat, it's like really well put together world. Also, the movement and like the upgrades you get, super fun. Particularly like when you're locked in drone form in the second half of Axiom Verge 2, it's like, well, this sucks. The drone's got nothing, and they immediately dump all the drone upgrades on you. It's like, ooh, the drone's more fun than the human now. I get to zip around with a grapple slingshot.
Mm-hmm. Got to make it interesting somehow.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
yeah.
should we get into the analysis then?
Think so.
Truth. What kind of truths can we find in Axiom Verge?
Once again, these are not games that like come to a conclusion
Right.
about things. But it's like,
Even so,
I think it offers something to say about like the value of living and like what a human has to do in order to move forward and like live a life that's worthwhile. Because you see Trace, at least as we know him, like he's principled. Like, I don't want to kill people if I don't have to.
But then you're confronted
that's something
with
I uphold as meaningful. And so even though it has kind of a modern outlook on that, it's like value systems are good for life. It's like, it's still trying to say that they're valuable, which is something we can hold on to.
But also
some
that
things
he's
remain
confronted
constant.
with a version of himself that has gone dark, and it's like, well, this is for the greater good from my point of view. So it's kind of
This
interesting.
is what you're capable of.
Yeah, but this is what you should try to be. They've also kind of, Indra has a bit of a redemption in that way, where she was estranged from her daughter. She was a bad mom because businesses stuff. She was too busy girl bossing. But then after this whole experience, she and this poor abused robot nanobot child, she's like, well, I've got somebody I need to take care of now, and I'm not going to mess this up. So there's a value to your life that was taken from you, and I'm going to try and bring it back, if that's even feasible, because of the way AI and nanobots work, which is a central question of the series. But yeah.
one that it poses at least. So it sounds like it's mostly like questions and food for thought posed rather than provided.
But there's truth to be hashed out in pondering those questions.
Yeah.
It just doesn't offer the answers.
Sure. Goodness. What is good in Axiom Verge?
Well, very similarly, you've got Trace's moral standing, where he's like, no, I'm more pacifist. Let's not do this. Mm-hmm. Let's try and talk it out with Athatos. I mean, he's me. He's got to be reasonable. Mm-hmm. He's not anymore.
Narrator. He wasn't.
He wasn't. And then with Indra and her discovery about how kind of not great of a person she's been, and how she does work to make that better. It's like, I may not be she's literally not the person she used to be at the end of the game.
Not how I
depending
used to
on
be.
your point of view and how you choose to interpret.
Mm-hmm.
And there is even forgiveness on her daughter's side posthumously ? Or just cross-dimensionally ?
Yes ?
And there's also an element of self-sacrifice from Indra ?
Mm-hmm.
Indra's body with her originals? It's a ?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did they end the movie with a sunset while they play baseball on a tube?
No.
Oh.
It was sunset color palette E, but it was not baseball. And there was no tube. There were tubes, but they're the doors in the first game.
Baseball.
The bookshelf is trying to tell you something, Murph. Beauty. What is beautiful about Axiom Verge?
Both games have fantastic pixel art. Like, the first game doesn't limit itself to the limitations of the NES, but it very much draws its art style from the limitations of the NES, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. It's like watching Mega Man versus watching Shovel Knight.
Yep.
It's like one's literally bound, one's more inspired. And the second one also similarly is just a lot more detail, a lot more like subtle movement, a lot more just color and warmth to the color palette. The first game had a very like harsh, dark, H.R. Geiger-y black and grays and harsh, fleshy tones, which was very striking and very interesting. But the second one was just a lot warmer in its color palette. Both have great looks for what they're going for, but it's interesting to see the difference. Also, the music. The first one has just some great atmospheric, drony, hummy tracks, with one standout track with this just really ominous chanting, or like not chanting, like vocalization.
Sure.
Just like but musically.
But musical.
The second one took the chanty vocalizations and turned and like spun it off in a more zen direction, where it's very, it's
Harmonious and meditative.
it's very meditative,
Huh.
which is great for when you're just running in circles. Like, where do I go? What do I do?
What do I do? What
At
do
least
I
it's
do?
pretty
What
to
do I
look
do?
at, and the music's not annoying. But no, but it's also just like, so yeah, this one, if you are into the aesthetic of old retro games, or even if you aren't, and it's just good pixel art, man. So it's, and for a game that shows more than it tells, looking good when you show things,
Yep.
is kind of a must.
Yeah. Unity. What brings everything together?
What does bring everything together?
Ah.
It is very much that the questioning nature of it, the trying to piece things together. Trace they're both scientists. Well, no, she's not. She's a business lady, but it's like there's this.
It's funny how you had to shatter reality in order to meditate upon it. At least in the way this game presents it.
Right.
Phenomenology.
Yeah.
It's very much a breakdown of everything we know and assume to be like,
What if
but
it
what
wasn't?
isn't? What if it wasn't? Mm-hmm. So I think that's kind of the central theme of the game. The breach.
Deep down, what would it be if it wasn't?
Indeed.
Like we
In fact,
expected?
like Axiom Verge, the title comes from Trace's work of questioning reality and everything. One of his axioms is that that could if an algorithm produces consciousness, would the consciousness assume the algorithm is reality, kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. So, what is on the very fringe and edges of our perceived reality? What is on the verge of breaking into something else? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where the title comes from, and that's what the ideas the games play with, like the nature of reality, the nature of the self, the nature of the person. Yeah. Very, very, very questiony, very mysterious. I kind of dig it.
Anything else before we wrap things up?
That's all I have to say about that.
What an amazing story. Well, thanks for listening to the Palladium Papists. You can listen to us on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. Leave a rating to let us know what you think of the show, and follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Papists. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, or suggestions for future episodes, email us at palladiumpapists@gmail.com. We'll talk to you again next week. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.